Hey guys, I measure my success in students taught, not dollars earned, so if you would let me know you learned something by dropping me a comment or liking this video, that would be much appreciated. And with that intro out the way, let's get started. Now I know you're excited to start making awesome 3D models for your game and whatnot, but let's first go over the interface. If you watched my last video, I showed you how to download Blender. Now it's time to start learning Blender, and what better place to start than with the interface. In this video, I'll go over configuring Blender in the quick setup screen, the hotness that is the splash screen, and the three main sections of the Blender interface. When you start Blender, you'll see this quick setup screen and not the splash screen that I showed in my previous video. At this point, you'll be greeted by the splash screen. This screen will let you configure Blender, and afterwards it's saved in red each time you load Blender, so you won't see it again unless you delete the location where this file is saved, which is what I had to do to bring it back so we could talk about it. I'm going to keep everything at the default settings, and I recommend you do the same, just so it'll be easier to follow along. Click Next, and now you'll be at the splash screen. The splash screen has some buttons that let you quickly get into a new project or your current project. Have a look over it if you wish. It's pretty intuitive, and I'm sure you'll find it very convenient soon enough. But for now, let's just click anywhere outside this dark gray area to close it. Blender is split into three sections: a top section called the Topbar, a middle section which contains areas, and a bottom section called the status bar. Please note that Blender is highly customizable. You can customize almost everything to suit your needs. If you're following this tutorial as part of my Blender series, then our version should look the same unless you changed the theme on the quick setup screen. Right off the bat, I like to increase my resolution scale. I'm on satellite internet, and when I watch YouTube videos, YouTube likes to set the resolution to 144p, and that just makes it difficult to read any text, and also because my monitor is small and relatively far away from me. So I'll increase mine by going to Edit, Preferences, Interface, and setting the resolution scale to 1.25. That just makes it a bit easier for my boomer eyes to see. This top section of Blender is called the top bar. These 5 buttons on the left are pretty standard except for render. You can go through them and check them out. Just start getting familiar with them for now. As with a lot of things in Blender, if you hover your mouse over a button, it'll tell you what that button does. Unfortunately, it doesn't go into too much detail. We'll get to them in more depth later. To the right of that, you'll see the workspace tabs. These are predefined layouts. Try clicking on some of them. They'll rearrange the areas in the middle section, which we'll get to in a bit. You can press Control Page up or down to cycle between them. If you double click on one of them, you can rename it. If you right-click it, you can clone or delete it. If you delete it, don't fret, my friend, because you can add them back by clicking this plus sign at the very end. You would just have to remember which one you deleted. But let's say you jacked it all up, deleted a bunch of them, renamed some of them something stupid as an April Fool's prank. By the way, I hate you, James. When you save the file and close, they will stay there. So how do you get them back to their original state? One way is to start a new file with the tabs you want. I'm going to pick something new and then open the messed up file by either clicking File, Open, or pressing Ctrl O. In the Blender file view, if you click this gear icon in the upper right corner and uncheck Load UI, this will stop Blender from loading any UI changes that were saved in the file. This means it keeps whatever UI is currently on the screen, which is why we had to start a new file with the UI we wanted. It does not replace it with a default factory setting. There is a Load Factory Settings button, but this will revert the resolution scale and any other changes you might have made, so I'm not messing with it. Maybe you don't mind, so you can try it if you want. Lastly, here in the very far right, there's a spot to change or add new scenes or view layers, which we won't get into right now. The middle section is where you'll do most of your work. It contains subsections called areas. Each area reserves real estate for an editor, which is simply a collection of tools designed to edit a particular dataset. The biggest one here is the 3D viewport, which, strangely, is where you edit your 3D objects, environments, and so on. Each area will have a button in the top left corner that lets you change what type of editor is displayed. You'll notice there are shortcuts for most of these, and the shortcuts are pretty easy to remember. It's just Shift F1 through F12. Some of these have the exact same shortcut. For example, this one shows Shift F3 4 times. All that means is that you can cycle through them by holding Shift and repeatedly pressing the F3 key like this. Try checking out some of the other editors before moving on. If you hover your mouse between two areas, your cursor will change to a double-headed arrow indicating that you can resize these by left-clicking and dragging. But wait, there's more! If you right-click between two areas, it'll bring up a submenu allowing you to split the area into two or swap the two areas. If the two areas are the exact same height or width, you'll get an additional option letting you join the two areas. After clicking join, you'll have to move your mouse over the area you no longer want and click your left mouse button. You'll see an overlay showing that one area will spill into another. This only works if they both have the same height or width. So I could join these two, but it won't let me join these two. Furthermore, if you decide you don't want to join them, you can right-click to cancel the operation. This is a common shortcut that works on a lot of tools in Blender. If you hover your mouse in a corner, you'll get a plus sign cursor. This is a quick way to split or join areas, but there's a little bit of a learning curve. It's not actually one spot you're clicking, but a few spots that you can click. Each area has one clickable spot in each of its four corners. Which one you click and the direction you drag it in determines if you split the area or join it with another. In this screenshot, it shows 3 areas labeled A, B, and C, but there are only 2 spots that you can click that I've labeled 1 and 2. If we click 1 and drag it into A, we can split A either horizontally or vertically depending on the direction we drag it. If we click 1 and drag it into B, then A will join B. The last section is the status bar, and it shows common keyboard shortcuts and the progress of some tasks. You don't have to do this, but as an example, if I reset the scene by creating a new file, and switch in the render engine to cycles and press F12, Blender will start rendering the scene. This is a slow process, and if you notice at the bottom in the status bar, it shows the progress. If you right-click the status bar, it'll bring up some options we can turn on, such as your scene statistics, which shows things like how many verts or faces are in your scene. Well guys, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new. Subscribe to join me in the next video where we'll look into the 3D viewport editor in more depth. Bye guys.